What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the box office for this weekend. And oh boy, Superman released this weekend and there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of controversy online, there's a lot of discourse online, and there's a lot of spinning of the numbers online. And so in this video, we're going to kind of go over everything that's kind of being talked about and expose some things that are obviously lies. So let's get right into this. So Superman opened to $125 million domestically and $220 million globally. Now, at first glance, this is one of those things where a lot of people thought that it could have gone higher, but I actually think this opening is really, really good, and I'll get to that and why that is in a minute. But one of the biggest things online right now is this a higher opening than Man of Steel, which came out in 2013, and it opened to $116 million. I put the quotes on there because back in 2013, they didn't count the Thursday preview numbers into the 3-day weekend. So, Superman had the Thursday night previews and then the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Man of Steel just had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not the Thursday previews. If you include the Thursday previews for Man of Steel, it actually opened to $128 million, which is $3 million ahead of this one's opening. So Man of Steel actually did open higher than this film, and that is unadjusted for inflation. If you adjust it for inflation, it's closer to $175 million was Man of Steel's opening. This is way behind that, $50 million behind what Man of Steel did adjusted for inflation. So ticket sales were not as high for this, not even close to as high for this, as they were for Man of Steel. Now, online, there's a lot of discourse about this, and people are like, oh no, you're lying, it didn't open that. No, it did not get to Man of Steel numbers. It didn't even get close to it adjusted for inflation when you adjust for ticket prices. So no, this film is not nearly as successful as Man of Steel was in 2013, and that's okay. Now, I do want to mention that the budget for Superman was $225 million. So it basically cleared its entire production budget on its opening weekend. So this thing will more than likely break even and make money for the studio, which means it has to get to, I think, roughly like $560 million or something like that. It will get there. It will probably get to $600 million. It might get to $700. It is not getting to $1 billion. It will not get to $1 billion, and that, whether, Fantastic Four, whether that was coming out or not, it wouldn't have gotten to $1 billion, but certainly not with Fantastic Four coming out in a couple weeks. It's just going to kind of cut off Superman's run at that point. So, it also has an A cinema score, which is it's the same as Man of Steel. It's the same as Man of Steel, but it is higher, a lot higher than a lot of other DC movies over the last 10 years and in all of those. So it's really good compared to DC standards, but it's not like unbelievable, like this is going to be the A+. Like, it's not that good, but A- is a solid cinema score that will grant it some pretty good legs in the future. So that's good. And another thing is why I think that this opening is actually good instead of, because some people are like, oh, this is such a bad opening weekend when compared to Man of Steel and all that. I actually think this is a good opening because Man of Steel opened in 2013. What trilogy preceded Man of Steel? The Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. So it's like, DC was at a much higher point when Man of Steel came out because it was right after arguably the greatest trilogy in comic book movie history. So the fact that it came out right after that, there was way more hype for that and way more like just everybody going to the theaters and all that than there is now, because people have been so burnt by DC. Over the last few years, DC's movies have not been nearly as good as the Christopher Nolan trilogy. And so, people just see this as another comic book movie. The casual audience does. We don't, but the casual audience is just looking at this like another DC movie. And I'll check it out whenever I get around to do it. But when Man of Steel came out, it was an event, like truly an event, because right on the heels of the Christopher Nolan trilogy. The hype was there. They were building the DCEU. So this was like a new thing. It was like, it was a much better situation for DC when that came out than this. So the fact that this did 125 million, I think is a win all in itself, and I think that's a big win for the DCU and, the comic book movie genre. And so to see it doing that is good, but it's not Man of Steel. And we'll see its legs. We'll see next weekend if it can hold better than Man of Steel did. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, that's basically the update on Superman's opening weekend. Let's head on over to the top 10 now. We can see Superman with $125 million in its first weekend. That again, it's good. It's good, in some ways and not so in others. But at number 2, we have Jurassic World Rebirth with $40 million in its second weekend, down 57%. Now, this number, 40 million down 57%, I think is a horrible, horrible number. Now, it did cross $500 million globally, which is nice, and it has probably already broken even, and we're probably going to get another one. But I think this is a horrible second weekend. And I mean, obviously, it has a lot to do with Superman taking all of the screens and taking a lot of the audience away from Jurassic World and the buzz. But last weekend we discussed that whether or not it was a 5-day opening weekend or a 3-day opening weekend, it would have still opened to $140 million either way. The 5-day weekend did not help it get more money. It still would have made the same whether it was 3-day or 5-day. Because the same people who would have gone to see it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday would have still gone to see it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whether it was 3-day or 5-day, and the people who saw it on Wednesday and Thursday are the diehards who are going to see it day one anyway. So it would have just, pushed everybody together, which I think is better anyway, and so it would have opened to $140 million either way. Now, if it had opened to $140 million on its 3-day weekend and then had a $40 million second weekend, that is like a 70% drop or higher. That is a ridiculously high drop, okay? And so I think that what you're looking at here is a spinning of the numbers. They tried to make it look better than it is, down 57%. It's more like 70 to 75%. That's what it is really. So that's not good. But it is up to $232 million domestically, so it is successful. It's doing well. But I think I think Superman really hurt its second weekend. So number 3, we have F1, which did $13 million, down 49%. That film's up to $136 million domestically, and it is almost at $400 million globally. It is doing well, kind of in the middle. It's not like a Sinners thing where it's dropping very, minimal drops each weekend like I think a lot of people wanted it to. I think just Jurassic World and Superman is kind of stealing a lot of the audience from F1 a little bit, even though I do think F1 is a lot better than Jurassic World Rebirth, and I think F1 is I think it may have been better than Superman. I don't know. They're pretty close. But I think that, overall, I think I wanted to see F1 do a little bit better. But it's not doing bad. It's doing fine. It's doing solid numbers. And so, it'll keep making money and we'll see where it lands. Hopefully it gets to about 500 million globally. Would be nice to see it get there. It's doing very well internationally. It's almost like a 2-to-1 split between international and domestic. So it's doing very well internationally, but it's not hitting quite the same here in the States. So at number 4, we have How to Train Your Dragon with $7.8 million, down 31%. That's a great drop. It's up to $239 million domestically now. At number 5, we have Elio with $3.9 million, down 33%. That's a fine hold. $63 million on the domestic overall. This is a film that Pixar wants to forget that they ever released into theaters, for sure. This is it's really, really rough at the box office. And it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's not like Pixar at its best, but it's not a bad film. It's a fine film. It's an entertaining film. It's just not doing well at all. So that's rough for Pixar. At number 6, we have 28 Years Later with $2.7 million, down 40%. That film's up to $65 million in its 4th weekend. Number 7, we have Lilo and Stitch with $2.7 million, down 32%. It's up to $414 million domestically and $994 million globally. So it will definitely be hitting the $1 billion mark very, very soon, within the next few days. It will be the first film in 2025 to reach $1 billion at the global box office, so that is great for it. At number 8, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning with $1.4 million, down 47%. That film's up to $194 million domestically in its 8th weekend. At number 9, we have Megan 2.0. Oh boy. With $1.3 million, down 66% in its 3rd weekend. That film's up to $22 million. It lost a lot of screens. It lost almost half of its screens. This is like awful. I don't know how else to put it other than just awful, just horrible. $22 million, that is what it has domestically so far. It will not reach $30 million domestically in its entire run, which is what the first one did in its opening weekend. That is horrible. As a sequel, sequels should always open higher, but at a minimum, they should at least get their domestic take higher than the first one's opening weekend. That is just like, that's another level of disaster. I don't know how else to put it. It's not a bad movie. It's not as good as the first one by any means. It's kind of in the middle. It's fine. It's entertaining at times. But overall, like, this is just a disaster at the box office. This is horrible. Anyway, at number 10, we have Materialists, which did $720,000, down 46% in its 5th weekend. That film's up to $35 million. It's doing well. And so, yeah, that is your top 10 for this weekend. Now, moving on to next weekend, we have I Know What You Did Last Summer and Smurfs. I can't wait for Smurfs. It's going to be great. No, I'm not even watching Smurfs. I'm not watching Smurfs. The preview alone has just, I'm done with that movie. I'm done seeing that trailer in the movie theater. They just need to stop showing it. Like, you're wasting marketing money right now, Paramount. Okay, is it Paramount? Is it Sony? I don't know. It's a disaster waiting to happen. It's gonna bomb really, really hard. I mean, Smurfs, I'm gonna go ahead and say opens to $7 million, and that's being generous. I'm gonna be honest, that's being very generous. And for the first time, I almost hope it doesn't open higher because it just looks that bad. The other film, I Know What You Did Last Summer, will definitely open higher. It has a nostalgia factor for the original, and the trailers look pretty good, so we'll see. But I think 28 Years Later, I mean, why did I just say 28 Years Later? I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think that film is going to open to, I'm going to say 18.3 million. Is kind of where I see it. I don't know if it gets to 20. I hope it gets to 20, but we'll see. But Superman in its 2nd weekend, I think, is going to do very well. I think word of mouth for this thing is very, good. A- cinema score. And you also have to take into consideration the Rotten Tomatoes score, which is a 93%. Now, that's a really, really strong Rotten Tomatoes score from the audience. And so I think, again, that word of mouth is going to be very, very good for Superman in this coming weekend. So I could see, this taking a less than 50% drop. I think it definitely needs to. I think if it takes like a 55% drop, that's okay. But I would ideally like to see this thing do a 45% drop. I think if it does a 45% drop, that is great. That is great. That is exactly where we need to see this thing. So, if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and comment down below what you guys think Superman is going to do in its 2nd weekend, and I will see you guys next time.